So this was definitely not something I was expecting to say for quite some time, actually, but, the next Zelda game has been revealed. Echoes of Wisdom. I'm admittedly still in shock. It's been a few hours, but I'm still really just getting off that high from just seeing a new Zelda game where we're actually playing as Zelda. I really wish I could have recorded my reaction to it, but I didn't think to. But rest assured, I was freaking out. But because I was really not expecting this at all, this entire video / analysis is going to be almost entirely unscripted. It's going to be mostly me going over my notes that I've taken after watching this trailer over and over and over again over the past few hours. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. The first thing I want to point out is actually Link's sword. It is not the Master Sword, if you couldn't already tell that. For one, it doesn't have the Master Sword's purple wing-like hilt or guard at the bottom. Instead, it has, for lack of a better word, a swirl kind of guard that is a more bluish teal color. The colors actually remind me of the Phantom Sword from Phantom Hourglass. Obviously, Phantom Sword, Phantom Hourglass. But I don't actually think it has any connection to the Phantom Sword. I namely think that because of the art style, because it is using the 2019 Link's Awakening remake art style. And if I had to guess, that would probably be because these games are connected in some way. I'd assume maybe this Echoes of Wisdom takes place either before or after it. It could be either one, or maybe like a few generations down and this is a completely new Link. But there's also another reason that I think that this is unrelated to the Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks, and that is actually our next point. So a little later in the trailer, we can see right here, when Link confronts Ganon, the Ganon that we see is actually the Ganon from A Link to the Past / A Link Between Worlds. You can tell that because of the small helmet on his head, the big red armor, and the 2 spikes on his shoulder guards. This is a perfect match for A Link to the Past Ganon, which I'm going to pull up on screen right now, show the 2 side by side. So given that this is the same Ganon from A Link to the Past / A Link Between Worlds, I'd have to assume that the Ganon from Echoes of Wisdom is probably the exact same Ganon. So that would probably mean that this game, once again, takes place a little bit before or after A Link to the Past or A Link Between Worlds, or maybe even Link's Awakening. It could be that the Link we see here is actually the hero of legend from A Link to the Past, the Oracle games, and Link's Awakening. So that would explain why we have the same Ganon here, the same Link, and possibly the same Zelda. Another thing that I do want to add, I completely forgot this in my original draft, so I am adding this in post, is the bow that Link uses. The bow kind of reminds me of the Strong Construct bow from Tears of the Kingdom. I'll put up an image of that now. They're obviously not the exact same, but the Strong Construct bow should be, it has the same exact coloration with these weird square-like swirls on it. So maybe, and this is a kind of a big stretch here, but maybe the Zonai have some kind of involvement here. Again, I'm just kind of pulling this out of my ass here. I don't think they do. I feel like that is a really, really big stretch to be saying, but I figured I should at least point it out. The next thing that I want to note actually comes in when the Hyrule reveal shot where we see Zelda standing on the cliff, or the Breath of the Wild shot of the trailer. Interestingly, this Hyrule is probably one that we've seen before. Once again, tying back to the Link to the Past connections, I am fairly certain that this is A Link to the Past's Hyrule. So, right off the bat, the first thing that we notice is Hyrule Castle. It is in the center of Hyrule, and to its east is a little rock grove. This is actually very similar to the rock area that we see east of the castle in A Link to the Past and A Link Between Worlds. Directly southeast of the castle is then a lake, which looks remarkably similar to Lake Hylia from once again, A Link to the Past and A Link Between Worlds. Slightly more east of the castle, we can also see what appears to be a palace of some sorts. And once again, this pretty much matches where the Eastern Palace was in A Link to the Past and A Link Between Worlds. It even has the same like archway and stairs leading up to the palace itself right there. Moving on, I want to slightly focus on the echo mechanic of the game. So as the trailer explains, Zelda can find objects and she can make echoes of them. So basically summon items and use them to solve puzzles. I think this is actually really cool, if I'm being completely honest. So most Zelda games sort of focus on combat before puzzle solving, where puzzle solving is usually relegated to dungeons in the older games and shrines in Breath and Tears. But here it seems like the main focus, instead of combat to solve problems and fight your way through enemies, is actually puzzle solving. So you have to use your wisdom to figure out these puzzles, which I think is really cool as a mechanic for Zelda. Moving on, I briefly want to touch on Tri, the little fairy companion that we seem to meet. I don't really know what to say about them, if I'm being honest. They kind of remind me of, what are their names? The little stars from Mario Galaxy. Lumas. Tri reminds me of kind of like a Luma, I guess. Because it's got that like little round body with the pointed head and then the little nubs at the bottom. The one thing it's lacking is the little stubby arms. But the main thing that I did want to actually point out about Tri is the triangles that follow them. So I noticed at multiple points through the trailer, Tri has a different amount of triangles. So when we first meet Tri in the little jail cell that Zelda finds herself in, Tri has exactly 3 triangles. Later in the trailer, when Zelda is stacking tables, I noticed, or stacking tables to get up the ledge, I noticed that Tri only had 1 triangle. And then just slightly after that, when Zelda is gets the wooden box echo, we can see that Tri has 4 triangles. My first thought was probably that these are the charges, for lack of a better word, for the echo mechanic, and from what I can see, that is actually probably going to be the case, as we can see when Zelda is stacking the water blocks to swim up a ledge. We can see that each time she summons a water block, a triangle moves from Tri and summons into the water block, and then when she summons another one, another triangle goes until Tri has no triangles left. So it seems like probably as we keep playing through the game, we're going to get more and more echoes, so we can eventually solve puzzles and summon more echo. Right after the main echo showcase is the monster echo demonstration. I think that is probably going to be our main form of combat throughout this game, and I think that is really, really cool. It gives me like Pokemon vibes, where Zelda's capturing different monsters or the echoes of them and then throwing them in to do her bidding, to just fight off everything around her. I think that is kind of funny, actually. And I can see that, like, from what they show, it seems like different monsters are going to be smarter to use in different scenarios. So obviously, when you're underwater, like the trailer is showing, you want to use a aquatic monster. A few more quick things I wanted to mention. As we're flashing through, kind of going off at the end of the trailer, one of the areas that Zelda is going through is a jungle/swamp area. If this is a Link to the Past Hyrule, then this is probably directly south of the palace, the southern swamp area. So then if we went a little bit to the east, we would find Lake Hylia. So if that's the case, then that would be more confirmation that this is a Link to the Past Hyrule. And this could also just as equally be a completely new area. We've never seen a jungle area like this in a 2D Zelda game before, to my knowledge at least. The only real jungle area that I can think of that we've seen in a Zelda game is probably the Faron region in Breath and Tears. So seeing something like this is actually really cool. I'm really digging all these new locales and environments, and again, I really like the Link's Awakening 2019 remake style. I'm really happy to see that they are using this again. briefly flashing a few scenes after we see the jungle area, we see an older woman taking on 3 guards at once and then emerging victorious from a fight that was honestly pretty uneven. It was a 1v3 and she came out on top easily. If I had to guess, this is probably Impa. So this Impa is probably going to be helping Zelda throughout the game. Maybe not necessarily in combat encounters, but more so as like a guide per se. So like telling Zelda where she should go next to check things out. So she could be like, after this scene, this could be when we first meet her, she could be like, oh, Zelda, you should check out the Eastern Palace. Maybe you'll find something there. If this, again, assuming that this is a Link to the Past Hyrule. A little bit further in, we then see 2 Zora species. This is a big deal. A really, really big deal. So on the left, we can see the River Zora that we have come to know in the Downfall timeline. So these are the guys that you find when you're in the water areas that would pop out and they would spit fireballs at you. And to the right, we see our more common Sea Zora that we see in the 3D games, especially. And the only 2D appearance that I can think of was in one of the Oracle games. It was, I want to say it was Ages. We knew for a long time that both of these Zora existed at the same time, as evidenced by Oracle of Ages, with the Sea Zora appearing there, and then I believe there were River Zora in that game. I can't exactly remember. But to see them fully interact at once, or to see them fully interact in person like this, is actually really cool. If I had to guess, this is probably like maybe Zelda is overseeing like a peace treaty between the two. It could be that the two of them the 2 races of Zora have been feuding for a while. I'm just kind of coming up with things that seem to make sense. It seems like it makes sense to me, at least, because we can see that the River Zora is like kind of stomping their feet from what it looks like, and the Sea Zora is kind of like shaking, like like he or she is angry. Directly after this, though, we see a Deku Scrub merchant. This is, I'm not gonna lie, this is really interesting because this specific Deku Scrub merchant model, to my knowledge, hasn't been seen since, I want to say, Majora's Mask. Again, I'm not sure. It could also be the Oracle games. They could have been in the Oracle games. It has been a hot minute since I played them. But to my knowledge, this exact Deku Scrub type has not been seen since Majora's Mask. So to suddenly see them in what I assume to be the timeline, the Downfall timeline, is interesting. But timeline aside, timeline does not matter. We are not here to discuss where it takes place. I do not care, quite frankly. Immediately after that, though, we also see the Great Deku Tree, which is very interesting because, again, bringing up the timeline, if this is the Downfall timeline, we have never seen the Great Deku Tree in that timeline before. And especially if this is a Link to the Past / a Link Between Worlds Hyrule, we have seen no evidence that the Deku Tree even exists in that area. We know that the Maku Tree exists in the Oracle games. The Deku Tree also seems to look like their Ocarina of Time appearance interesting. Yeah, so as you can see on screen right now, you can see it's got like the same nose, the same droopy eyebrows, the same tree mustache. He looks almost 1-to-1, which is interesting. So maybe these 2 are the same, but they could also just equally be 2 different Deku trees. I don't know, and we probably won't know ever, really. I don't know. But after that, the only thing I can really think of to mention is the release date, which is September. I did not at all see that coming. To see a brand new Zelda game coming out in such a short time after Tears of the Kingdom is honestly amazing. I'm not gonna lie. I am very excited for this game. I think this is going to be a really interesting game through the way it plays, because it seems to rely more on puzzle solving instead of combat to defeat enemies, and I think that is going to be really cool. I also like how Aonuma mentions in the trailer that they seem to have made a game where no two players' experience is going to be the same. That is really cool. I am very excited to see how different people use different echoes to solve different puzzles. Like, one person could use a completely different echo to solve a puzzle than that I did. I could use, say, I could see like a ledge and I could put a water block down, while another person could just make a stairway of tables or beds or something, which is really cool. Or use a trampoline, because we do see a trampoline. I completely forgot to mention this in my notes, in what appears to be Gerudo Town, actually, because if you look very carefully, you can actually see, I'm gonna see, because if you look very carefully, you can actually see what appears to be a chibi, for lack of a better word, Gerudo. So again, if this is the, and I'm sorry to keep bringing this up, if this is the A Link to the Past, A Link Between Worlds Hyrule, to see the Gerudo here is especially interesting, because it's just suddenly, just a lot of races that we haven't seen in this Hyrule before are just suddenly appearing, and that's really cool. Sadly, no sign of the Rito, but one can hope. September is just 3 months away. So who knows? Maybe we'll probably get another trailer in that time, so who knows? Maybe the Rito will appear. But yeah, that's basically it from me. I apologize how this video is very unscripted and rambly. You're probably wondering why a lot of my words are like sort of coming out like stuttery, because in a lot of my other videos I don't have this kind of like these pauses, mainly because I have a script, but now that I'm going off script completely, this is just how I normally talk. So hopefully we'll get more about the game pretty soon. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to making videos on it, going through, playing the game, and yeah, I'll see you guys later.